I'm doing well. Tired, but overall I'm okay. You know, the world's all going to shit, but we're here. It's good to see you again. How are you? Is it um sorry, there's a little bit of a there we go. Alright. It like stopped loading my preview, so I was not sure if it crashed or not. But it seems like we're all good. That's what I like to hear, so yeah, we're just gonna be reading today. I put on a little bit of makeup to make myself feel like a real person, but of course you guys can't see any of it because I didn't get the reflective or the glare proof glasses when my glasses broke. So, that's always fun. But it's okay. You're mostly here for my scintillating voice anyway. Thank you. Lighting is super fun. It usually is a little bit better, but my ring light is stuck on one setting, so I get to look like an iridescent ghost right now, which, it's kind of a vibe, right?
Pay attention. If you want to solve a crime,
I'm not really sure, but
you must see through the
I think it's fun. It is what it is right now. We're just wanting to hang out. So, thank you for coming and stopping in and checking in. How are you? I hope the past year has been good for you. I know that a lot of people are struggling, but I also know that a lot of good things have happened too, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. So, I hope everything is well with you. So we are reading Burn Mark by Laura Powell. Terrified? For the world or for yourself? Because, the book is about, so it's set in this world in which witches are a real thing, a real known thing. And it centers around the two teenage main characters, Glory and Lucas, who come from very different backgrounds but find themselves in similar situations and have to end up working together to get something that they both want. It's a dual perspective book. It's quite fun. It's set around this idea that witches exist, but the Inquisition is a real thing, and the Inquisition doesn't hunt witches, but does control them and will burn them at the stake if they do terrorism. So it's very interesting. Kind of, yeah. Romeo and Juliet, if they actually hated each other in the beginning and fundamentally hated what the other stood for, and then it's a real enemies to lovers, but like low key, It's more ignorance enemies to lovers. We're currently on chapter 14. The past ones are up on my YouTube, or most of the past ones are up on my YouTube channel. I had an issue with one of them that I have to re-upload, but that is a thing that's happening. So if you're interested in looking at those, you can always go click the link down below, head over to the YouTube, and watch the VOD of that there. I will also be editing them down soon. The editing software, I've gone through like 3 editing softwares now. So, knock on wood. I knocked on 2 things that weren't wood before I finally knocked on the only piece of furniture that I have is wood behind me. That is funny. But I am editing them down soon, so I have the full a full VOD up. I'm fairly certain, and then maybe the second one as well. We've done this is the 4th time, I believe, that we are reading the book. So again, those videos will be posted to YouTube in a while, and I am trying to edit them down. Editing is hard, and I don't like it, and the software is being very finicky. So knock on wood that this next one works better, and that I can finally actually start editing decent ones. Yeah, I have heard that too. So I've been trying to post there as well, but I was sick. I'm sick a lot, but I had like the flu or cold or something, and I couldn't even think about content for a minute. So I do need to post on all my socials more, but it has been a rough week and a half. But we're back. We're getting to it. We'll figure it all out. I'm not super concerned about growing the YouTube quite yet, just because I haven't gotten better at editing. So I haven't actually posted any of my edited content, simply because it's just not good enough, and I'm still learning. So I've had to restart on a lot of them because I've just like horrendously messed up a lot of them. It's a steep learning curve, but I'll get it eventually, and eventually there will be edited videos as well as the VODs. But, you know, I might be posting more on YouTube Shorts if this TikTok ban goes through. Not ever been super big into Instagram, so I'll probably move over to YouTube Shorts, just simply because I also do post on YouTube and I stream on Twitch, so it just makes the most sense that I would move over there instead of Instagram. Or there's a couple of these odd, like, other platforms that I don't know enough about to move over to, but the tea with what rock have you been hiding under? So TikTok, this is the second time that the US government has tried to ban TikTok. The first time it didn't go through. However, the second time they voted today or yesterday or something. I think they voted yesterday, and it was I think a 650 something to like 48 vote for the bill to pass. So now it just has to go through the Senate, and then the President of the United States has to sign it into law. But the president's already stated on multiple interviews that if they pass it both in the House and the Senate, then he'll sign it pretty much immediately, which isn't even shocking at this point. Yeah, Congress really wanted it to, but the Senate seems to be taking a much more like, this is so not on the top of my radar right now that I'm not gonna worry about it right now. So it'll be, I think, at least a month before we even hear anything else about it. But the fact that it did pass Congress is kind of a big deal, and it could get a lot of people, like a lot of people depend on TikTok for their communities, for their small businesses, for their art, for their small businesses. I know that I've used it for a lot of stuff. Though TikTok particularly hates me because every time I reach a milestone that I wanted to reach, they change the requirements for what I want to do. So, you know, super fine. It's fine. However, I'm not super worried about it for myself personally, but I know that my friends, a couple of my friends are really worried about it. Specifically, one of my friends, Lilith Max, she does folksy filk music. She actually, I didn't end up getting the infographic for it, but I was going to post it in this stream. And if I do ever get around to editing this video, I will probably post it here somewhere. But her new song, is actually a ballad, and it's releasing on Friday. It's super good. If you're into kind of like Paris Paloma, Hosier, Noah Kahan, Aurora vibes, then you should definitely go check her out. Her name is Lilith Max again. She is on TikTok and YouTube, and she is also on Instagram. So check her out if you feel like it. I will definitely be playing the song next time that we stream. So, because I really love her music, and she deserves all the love in the world. Lilith Max, yes. Paris Paloma sang the Labor song, I'm sorry, all I can think about is the new Hosier song coming out March 22nd. The I Take My Whiskey Neat. Paris Paloma did Labor. All day, every day, therapist, mother, maid, nymph, and a virgin, nurse, and a servant live to attend him, so that I'll never lift a finger. 24/7 baby machine, so he can live out his picket fence dream. It's not an act of love if you make her, you make me do too much labor. That's Paris Paloma, was that song. And then Hosier, like, what? Take Me to Church, Somebody New. Take Me to Church is his most popular one, but he's pretty famous. He's done like tons of music, but my lover's got humor. She's the giggle at a funeral. Knows everybody's disapproval. Shoulda worshipped her sooner. If the heavens ever did speak, she's the last true mouthpiece. Every Sunday's getting more bleak. Fresh poison each week. That's Hosier. Thank you. It's kind of shaky right now. So that's Hosier. Paris Paloma is Labor. Noah Kahan, I don't know what his most famous one is, but things like Stick Season, Call Me something. Okay, I have to like, I have all of the songs in my head right now and they're mashing lyrics. Let me, hold on. Let me see if let me pull it up. Dial Drunk is what it's called. And then, yeah, Dial Drunk is his most famous one. What did I say? Paris Paloma, Hosier, Noah Kahan, and Aurora. Aurora sang Runaway. I am not going to try to sing that. That is well out of my vocal range. Absolutely not going to happen. I just can't do it. It is like, it's just bad. It would just be bad for me to try to sing that, in all honesty. But just real quick to round it out, I will go ahead and sing the chorus from Dial Drunk. I do not have the correct beat, so, you know, be forewarned about that. Hold on. I can actually...
Drunk and alone, traffic lights and the transmitter radio.
that your name is my emergency phone call, honey. Ring and ring, even the cops thought you were wrong for hanging up. I'll die drunk, I'll die drunk, I'll die for you. That's Dial Drunk. Sort of. It's a very, very small verse from Dial Drunk. So yeah, if any of those kinds of music... Oh. Nightbot, no. No, no. Nightbot, no. That's not what you're... No, that's not what you're supposed to do. No, Nightbot. Why are you like this? I apologize for Nightbot. Nightbot. Okay, so I have 2 bots that have just gone completely rogue and they won't stop. In my Discord server, my turtle bot has decided that the F word is just completely wrong. It'll let me say it till my face turns blue. But if any of the people in chat even try to whisper the F word, it's over for them. And now Nightbot is sitting here. You can't use emotes. That's very rude, Nightbot. I would actually really appreciate it if you would let people use emotes. Anyway, yeah, so if any of those are your vibe, I would definitely check out Lilith Max. You know what? Hold on. You know what we're gonna do? Real quick. So I'm gonna show you 2 of Lilith Max's songs. I'm not gonna try to sing them because it, again, won't be good. But here's her most famous song. Now, I don't need advisors to tell me which of us is proven to be wiser. That's called Peasant Throne by Lilith Max. I could probably sing Peasant's Throne, okay? I probably could. That's probably in my vocal range.
Welcome to Hey Lilith, how do you Hey Lilith, how do you Can you smile at me
One more time under the lamplight of the moon, to know the stars would fall to earth. Would you have left so soon? That's her song coming out. It's her ballad. That's coming out on Friday. It's called Still With Me. It's a vibe. I love her music. The fact that she is my friend is amazing. I will never stop talking about her. She has so much talent, and I pray for a fraction of it one day. Anyway, spiel about my friend over. Let's... I 100% will when I meet up with her. We live in different states right now. Though, she also runs her own little Etsy jewelry shop. She makes beautiful jewelry, and she's gonna send me one. So be looking out for an entire outfit based around whatever one she sends me. And I do think I am gonna ask her to sign a card. Or 2, so I can keep one and then I can sell another one. I'm not ashamed. I love her. She's so good at what she does. So, you know. How we met is actually kind of funny. And by that I mean how I 100% friendly slid into her DMs, like friendship wise, because I'm engaged, so like I'm not hitting on her or anything, but I 100% slid into her DMs back when she had a little under 5k followers and I have a little over 1,000 followers, and I was like, I saw her on my TikTok For You page, and I commented on one of her videos because I liked it, and she commented back. I looked at her profile, we were the same age, and I just sent her a message. I was like, hey, we seem to be into the same things, and we're the same age. Just thought I'd shoot my shot, and it worked. We play Lethal Company together at least once a week, and she does come on stream sometimes, so be on the lookout for that, because she's so fun. She's so fun. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. I love my friends. I love my friends, and I love talking about anything that they're doing, because if I can just get a couple people to go like her stuff, like, that is all I want. Like, she's growing just fine on her own, but in any way in which I can support her, I will. I'm that kind of friend. Anyway, my brain stopped working there for a hot second. The little Windows reboot thing was happening in my head. So thank you for going to follow her. It actually means a lot to me that you did that. But again, okay, I'm done now. I will stop. This is my stream. This is, at this point, I should have just named this stream Promotion for Lilith Max. And that would be a more accurate description of what we're doing here. But let's get in to what we actually, excuse me, I apologize. It's a natural function, and I'm good at it. I have beaten men with my burps. I actually won a lot of money in, yeah, that one wasn't my best, but it was decent, okay? No, but my best ones, those are saved for when there's money on the table, okay? Yeah, it could have been, but I was trying to keep it small because I'm on stream. You guys want a real burp? Do you want a real burp? Because I will drink more soda right now, and I will show you a burp. No, I actually used to, in middle school, I would bring a soda, and I would bring 2 sodas, and I would challenge, I love derailing goals. It's fun. No, our goal is just to hang out and have a good time, you know? Like, we'll eventually get to the reading of the book, but, we're just chatting, we're hanging out, we're having a grand old time. There is also a giant fat fly buzzing around, and I'm hoping if I talk long enough, it'll just go away and die, or at least leave my stream area. Like, what the fuck? This is Charlie. No, so I used to take 2 cans of soda to school, and I would, find a guy, and I would bet him that I could burp louder than him, and they would always take it, because I was like 80 pounds wet, back then. I was very tiny. I would chug these sodas in seconds flat, and then let out the most gargantuan burps. And sometimes I got money, sometimes I got food, It worked out very well. It was a very lucrative business I had back then. Leave Charlie alone. He's just pollinating your room. I know. But Charlie's loud. Charlie's not being loud right now. Charlie's just, resting on a wall somewhere. Or he left. I don't know. But he's not annoying me anymore. I thought I've decided Charlie's a boy. Charlie could easily be a girl. Ugh. I'm becoming my grandparents. Okay. Let's get into it then. I lied, we are not on chapter 14. Apparently we're on chapter 14. I thought we were on chapter 14. My bad. Yeah. For sure. Okay, Charlie. Alright. That's enough now. Please do not fly in my face. Alright, chapter 11. The 4 principal departments of the Inquisition were the Witch-Crime Directorate, the Witch-Kind Oh my god, this is already off to a wonderful start. I'm gonna try again. We're gonna take it from the top, y'all. Okay? The four principal departments of the Inquisition were the Witch Crime Directorate, the Witch Kind Assimilation Bureau, Intelligence Command for Surveillance, and the Office of the Inquisitional Court. In spite of its size, everyone knew the Witch Crime Assimilation Bureau was for inquisitors who weren't clever or ambitious enough to work anywhere else. Otherwise, Joa Branning's steady rise through the bureau ranks from junior clerk to senior witch warden might have attracted more attention. Hug a Harpy jokes aside, Joa used to work and thought it was important. Or Joa liked his work and thought it was important. His secret, which he knew was a shameful one, was that as a little kid he actually wanted to come down with the seventh sense, until his dad caught him trying to make an amulet and gave him a clip around the ear that made him howl. Even now, he's sometimes worried that his interest in witchwork wasn't entirely professional. Within the Inquisition, the Fae was referred to as a faculty, not an ability, and certainly not a gift. But Joa hadn't grown out of his wonder at it all the same. And then came the telephone call, late on a Monday evening, and the summons to his department head's office. A strictly hush-hush business, this, his boss warned, just before he dropped the bombshell about the Stern boy. Jonah greatly admired the chief prosecutor. His courtroom skills were legendary, as were the cases he'd won. The tragic killing of his wife had given him an added authority and dignity that even his opponents had to respect. And now the boss was telling Jonah that Ashton Stern's only child, the heir to 12 generations of Inquisition royalty, was a witch. A powerful one, too, type D. He'd been assessed that morning. This news was followed by the second shock of the evening. We'd like you, Jonah, to be his warden. Joa stammered out something about his own youth and inexperience. His boss waved it away. I've already discussed it with Ashton. He feels, and I agree, that Lucas would benefit from having a supervisor who is relatively close to his own age. What's more, your record in this department is exemplary. You're shaping up to be a damn fine officer. The boss nodded impressively. Jonah blushed. There's no denying this will be a difficult case. Lucas's age is unusual as his facilities. Then there's his family history and position. The boss explained that Lucas Stern would be registered in this restricted access section of the National Witchkind Database. His records would be stored with those of witch agents in secret services and other classified or sensitive cases, but under a different name. Until the Goodwin trial was concluded, they couldn't risk his condition being leaked. Only 4 people know about this besides ourselves and the Stern family. Sir Anthony himself, Commander Stratus from the Witch Crime Directorate, the Inquisitioner who conducted Lucas's assessment, and the guard who provided the security. And for the moment, we intend to keep it that way. This was all irregular. For one thing, there should have been 2 Inquisitioners present at the boy's assessment. Jonah wondered what other bits of protocol had been ignored. I'm afraid I don't quite understand. I'm sure you're aware of the importance of the Goodwin case in our fight against coven witch crime. Nothing can be allowed to undermine Ashton's role of prosecutor or to disrupt the trial. It is therefore been agreed that we should withhold his son's condition from the public until the trial is concluded. At that point, Ashton will announce Lucas's fae along with his resignation, and normal procedures will apply. Jonah wasn't entirely reassured. Won't the timing look suspicious, sir? We would still be accused of a cover-up. The boss shrugged. As long as the tribunal secures a conviction for Bradley Goodwin, no one's going to cause trouble in that respect. Sadly, I fear the fallout from Ashton's departure will be a different matter. But you needn't worry about that, Branning. Your only concern is to ensure the Stern boy matures into a law-abiding and well-adjusted witch. Yes, sir. Of course, sir. The boss clapped him on the shoulders. Good man. No doubt young Lucas will be very grateful for your support. My shoulders. Jonah tried to keep these words. Jonah Okay. Wow. Okay, we're gonna try again. Jonah tried to keep these words in mind as he made his way to the Stern household on Wednesday. Yeah. I just have it there in case someone wants it. I don't know. I think it was just there and I just haven't ever taken it off. Jonah tried to keep these words in mind as he made his way to the Stern household on Wednesday morning. According to the file, Lucas was intelligent, high-achieving, and personable. But the boy would be in a traumatized, potentially unstable state. Jonah would take things gently. The house was as imposing as he'd expected. With a self-important guard at the gate, he wondered, somewhat apprehensively, if the chief prosecutor was at home. Ashton Stern represented the officer class elite that Jonah aspired to while slightly mistrusting. Most inquisitioners of Jonah's rank and above were privately educated and had the easy confidence that privilege brings. Jonah did not have the same confidence, but he wasn't without ambition. He knew a case like Lucas Stern could make or break his career. This didn't make it any easier to keep his cool when the chief prosecutor himself answered the door. Jonah stumbled over his introduction. "I've heard good things about you, Officer Branning," the prosecutor cut in, fixing him with that famously steely blue stare. "Come on through. My son's waiting in the library." Lucas Stern was lounging in an armchair by the fireplace. He half rose when Jonah entered the room and offered him a languid hand. As he shook it, Jonah glimpsed at the cuffs under the boy's shirt. 10 centimeter, as befitted of a Type D. Lucas' eyes flitted over to Jonah, taking in the blunt, freckled face, the sandy hair, and wide jaw. There was a stain on his tie where he had spilled some coffee that morning. Lucas looked at the stain, and his lip curled. Jonah lowered himself cautiously onto the spindly chair that had been set out for him. It was probably an antique. The room was lined with faded prints and leather-bound books with glint on the spine. A sad-eyed woman gazed down from the mantelpiece. To suggest an ads redeem for points, or to suggest Lilith Max. I'm honestly not sure. I've never called them anything else, so I don't know what they're comfortable for as regards to nicknames, so I could not say for sure. A sad-eyed woman gazed down from the mantelpiece. "My mother, Lucas informed him. She was murdered." "Yes, I'm sorry." "Are you? It's not as if you knew her. Witches make good assassins. Have any of your cases gone on to a life of witch crime?" "No." He raised a mocking brow. "Let's hope I won't spoil your record." "I'm sure you won't." Jonah started on the official script, the one about responsibilities, regulations, and rewards. Lucas barely covered his yawns. "How old are you?" he interrupted. "I'm 23. "And already a senior warden? Were you on the fast track scheme then?" "No." "So you didn't go to university?" "No." "Funny, I rather thought you hadn't." Jonah's mother had fallen ill when she was 16. With his dad having to take extra shifts at the car plant, Jonah had cut classes to stay home to look after her. His mother recovered, his grades did not. He had joined the Witch Crime Assimilation Bureau at 18, with a couple of AS passes and a letter of recommendation from the school head. But none of this had anything to do with Lucas Stern. Yeah, I mean, obviously, suggest whatever you want. I don't think it's a new thing. I think other streamers have it too. I think it's honestly one of those badges that's just kind of always on. I think it's mostly there for, like, if somebody redeems it, it's like, oh, I want to take a bathroom break and I don't want to miss what you're saying, so I'm going to redeem my points for an ad break, and then I'm going to go to the bathroom. So, like, that's what I think it's mostly used for. I've only had it redeemed, I think, once or twice. But yeah, no, that's kind of what it's there for. It's basically like, because streams are live, it's a pause button. That's all it is. He leaned forward. Well, it's never too early to think about careers. Using your fae in service of the state can be very rewarding. There's the police, of course, and someone with your facilities could even consider Wicca. The armed forces are active recruiters too. Then you have heard of the Department of Agriculture is increasingly investing in witchwork-supported crops and livestock as an alternative to GM, a career in cowshed. Inspiring stuff. Yeah, for sure. It benefits both the streamer and the viewer. Or there's health services. Medical advances have reduced the need for witch healers, but many hospitals still employ them. The fae is often used in easing the death and childbirth, I understand. You think I'd make a good midwife. Then again, Jonah pressed on, you can choose to remain bridled. A non-practicing witch is eligible for most jobs, except for politics, or the church, of course, or the Inquisition. The tone was still mocking, but Jonah could hear the bitterness underneath. He tried a different tack. How do those feel? He pointed to the iron cuffs. The skin around the edges looked red and sore. Fine. And yourself? I'm fine too. Really? You have gray in your hair. Lucas raised a hand to his head and then let it fall. He shrugged. Girl trouble. It'll send me to an early grave. In spite of the glib answer, it was the only point in their meeting when the boy looked ill at ease. Jonah thought, shifty even. But the moment passed, and for the rest of Jonah's visit, Lucas was as smoothly insolent as before. Lucas had been determined to dislike whoever was appointed as his warden, and everything about Officer Branding was irritating. Those childish freckles, his patient expression, the way the man was so obviously in awe of his father. Lucas knew he'd been behaving like an arrogant brat. He enjoyed it. If the warden had any guts, he'd have risen to the bait and told him where to go. He was supposed to be the one in charge. He had all the power, but no, he just sat there and asking his quiet questions, pretending to be interested on the level, while they both knew the whole thing was set up as a farce. Although he knew his real troubles would start once the Goodwin trial ended. By the end of the first week, Lucas was boiling over with boredom and resentment. The prospect of another month under virtual house arrest was unbearable. It didn't help that he wasn't sleeping properly, kept awake by the discomfort of the iron cuffs. As much as his thoughts, the custom-made set he'd been getting on Monday would be a better fit. Polished, smooth, with rounded edges to reduce chafing. But a permanent bridling was hardly something to look forward to. Claremont had been informed that Lucas had glandular fever, resulting in a stream of get-well-soon emails and texts from people at school. A lot were from girls. Bae sent a card with XXX by her name. Lucas ignored them all. He had also ignored the home study program provided by Officer Branding, and spent the long days and nights watching junk TV and reading detective novels. At least he had Kip for company, for the dog had gotten over his initial reaction to the Fae, and was back to his usual drooling, devoted self. He saw little of the rest of the household. His father was mostly in court or his office. Philomena kept away as much as possible. Whenever their paths crossed, she went into a teary-eyed, trembling-lip victim routine. Meanwhile, Marissa was pleasant but watchful. Busy calculating, Lucas thought. He'd always suspected she was tougher than she looked. Well, good for her. She'd need to be. They all would. Sometimes he'd sit alone, stroke the thread of silver in his hair, and wonder if he'd ever dare try his Fae. He knew the iron around his wrists wasn't enough to imprison it. The 2 glasses he'd witched worked were still in place and awaiting his touch. But he had enough listening in. It was true, after all, that eavesdroppers never hear any good of themselves. One of his flying visits, Ashton announced that he would be home early on Friday and that he was looking forward to dinner with all family. Lucas wondered if his father meant to hold a conference. Maybe the 4 of them would finally get a chance to discuss what happened and how best to deal with it. United we stand, or more likely it would be an hour of painful small talk and long silences as everybody avoided the witch-worked elephant in the room. Only 10 minutes after coming home, his father had a visitor. It was just after 6. Marissa was starting preparations for dinner. Philly was watching television in her room, and Lucas was in his room too, brooding by the window. From there, he saw Commander Saunders arrive at the gate. Josiah Saunders was the head of the Witch Crime Directorate, and one of Ashton's fellow High Inquisitors. His department was working alongside the prosecutor's office of the Inquisitional Court throughout the Goodwin trial. Lucas knew that he was due to retire shortly for reasons of ill health. He certainly looked unwell, thin and sallow-faced, and moving with painful stiffness from a far older man. Curious, Lucas went to wait in the shadows at the head of the stairs, from where he could look down over the hall. The guard must have announced the visitor via intercom in the study, for Ashton came to the door before the bell could be rung. "Josiah," he said, "this is unexpected. I'm sorry to intrude on your evening, but I was in the neighborhood and I'm afraid this can't wait for the office." "Sounds serious." "Yes," he lowered his voice. "The situation we discussed earlier has come to pass." Ashton glanced around the hall. "Come into the study." Lucas didn't hesitate for more than a minute. He went straight to the dining room and picked up the witchwork glass, sweating and shivering. He fought his way past the iron to the faint quiver of his fae. It took all his strength to draw it out into the talisman, and a thread of sound he picked up was much thinner than before. The color of the sound was weak, and the effort to make sense of it made his teeth chatter and his bones ached. But the longer he listened, the harder it was to tear himself away. Chapter 12. Ugh. I think I still have a little bit of that cold left. Because, that hurt to swallow. Chapter 12. I suppose it was inevitable. The commander was saying, bribery can't be detected by bells or suppressed by bridles. In some ways, fighting witchwork would be simpler. At the moment, we don't even know which of the 6 tribunal members has been got at. But the tip-off came from a reliable source. "Someone within the coven?" Lucas's father asked. "A police informant. So far, all our attempts to infiltrate the Wednesday coven have failed." Ashton gave an exclamation of disgust. Behind closed eyes, the sound came to Lucas as a phlegm-colored. "The trial only has another month or so to run. We have no solid evidence that someone in the tribunal has been bribed, and without an informant within the coven, we're unlikely to get it. Game over." Not necessarily. There are still options to consider, and choices to be made. None of them will be easy. The commander cleared his throat. "In fact, I should warn you that what I'm here to discuss goes above and beyond matters of protocol." I know, I get it. That's totally fine. "Then perhaps you'd better explain things from the beginning. It's rather a long story. I get used to those in court." This time the commander laughed briefly. True enough, As you know, although the Inquisition leads the fight against Coven activity, in recent years my officers have been working increasingly close with the MI5. It was they who suggested we turn our attention to a small neighborhood outfit known as Copper Street. It's a coven in little more than name, but it shares a familial connection as well as business interests with the Morgan brothers. We even have an asset there. Though her resources are limited, she's an elderly lady, practically housebound. I see. You think this place could be a backdoor into the Wednesday Coven? Placing a mole within Copper Street is certainly an easier proposition, and it was at this end that I and my colleagues formed a task force with the agents of Wicca. Operation Echo is its name. Not a popular move, I'd imagine. Naturally, there was some hostility to the idea at the start. As you know, I've come to believe that there are circumstances where witchwork can be a useful weapon against witch crime, fighting fire with fire, as it were. But I have to respect that others feel differently. Silas Patterson among them? Colonel Silas Patterson was Saunders' deputy. Lucas saw that his father's voice, neutral in tone, had a greenish-brown tint of dislike. Silas will have to accept that times are changing. Wicca has proven the doom-mongers wrong so far. With Jack Rawdon at the helm, further expansion of the agency seems inevitable. In fact, it was Rawdon himself who proposed the mole's cover. He suggested that it should be that of somebody young, inexperienced, and previously unconnected to the Coven world. A schoolboy, in fact. How is that possible? A glamour can transform a person's look, but isn't using it to alter age highly unreliable? It is. In such cases, the witchwork never holds for long. We would never have attempted the operation if Rawdon hadn't had a specific candidate in mind. Agent Andrew Barnes turned witchkind very young, at the age of 18, and was recruited by Wicca soon afterwards. Now aged 20, he is a small stature and slight build, and naturally appears younger than his years. As an added precaution, his features have been disguised by a glamour. The commander sounded perfectly composed, but Lucas was watching a flickering yellow behind his speech. Josiah Saunders was a very nervous man. So Agent Barnes created the role of Henry Jukes, a young delinquent from a privileged background. His initial contact with Copper Street was to purchase drugs, not for personal use, but for dealing to his friends. Since then, he supplied the Coven with information about his neighbor's security arrangements, resulting in several household break-ins, and has assisted in a fake charity fundraiser. Naturally, all of those affected will be suitably compensated. Naturally, Ashton's voice was silver with suspicion. And how will your teenage tearaway graduate from school to Coven? He'll get the Fae, of course. Lucas sensed a gingery tingement of amusement. Next week, Phase 2 of Operation Echo will begin. Harry will arrive at Copper Street with the news he's turned witchkind. The story is that he's already been expelled from school and has left home before his Fae can be discovered. Morale is low at Copper Street, and so is security. An unregistered witch of Harry's age and background would appear easy to exploit. Why wouldn't they take him in and use him for their own ends? Even among criminals, a boy of 16 or so is not subject to the same scrutiny as a mature adult. And of course, this is the first stage of the operation. Our Coven asset assures us that if our young witch puts his Fae to good effect, Charlie Morgan will hear of it and move to recruit him for his own outfit. He's used to taking his pick of underworld talent, and he won't want Copper Street getting any ideas above its station. Sounds plausible. In fact, I don't quite see what the problem. Agent Barnes was involved in a railway accident at the Ealing on Monday. He'll be in the hospital for the next 6 weeks at least. Ashton left out a breath sharply. Could witchwork be involved after the whistle wind? At present, it seems a mechanical fault was to blame. In any case, it was completely by chance our agent was on the train at the time. We have reviewed Agent Barnes' fellow officers in a hope of witchworking one of them to take his place, and none are suitable. Our respective organizations have spent over a year working on the operation. It has taken months of preparation. There was a pause. Agent Barnes' facilities are as remarkable as his youth. Exceptional, in fact. To come across another person would be such an extraordinary stroke of luck. One might call it fate. In the following silence, Lucas could hear his heart thudding, fast and loud. It seemed impossible they couldn't hear it in the other room, but the stillness was absolute. When Ashton did speak, his voice and its color were icy white. Be careful what you say next, Josiah. I think you already know what I'm asking. And I think you should stop now before either of us says something we'll regret. Ashton, if you would just consider, he is 15 years old. Lucas isn't a child, he's a young adult, a type D witch whose status had been kept secret and records classified. He is uniquely positioned. I'm sorry, Josiah, this is a conversation is now at an end. Then, in a final explosion of feeling that showed himself as red and black bursts in Lucas's head, and don't think I'd react differently if this wasn't about my son. Christ, there must be some lines we don't cross. Otherwise, what the hell do we stand for? All right, Commander Saunders said gently. All right, I understand. I'm sorry to have to put you in a position. We'll talk no more of it. Let me show you out. In the room next door, Lucas put down the glass with a shaking hand. As he got to his feet, his vision went black, and he thought he was going to pass out. But this was no time for weakness. He straightened up, wiped his clammy face on his sleeve, and smoothed down his hair. It was important to appear controlled. He went into the hallway just as his father and his guests were reaching the door. Commander Saunders, he said. I'm Lucas. Both men stiffened. The commander's gaunt face, however, gave nothing away. Of course, it's good to see you again. I was listening at the door while you were in the study, Lucas went on quickly, before he could be interrupted or lose his nerve. I know it was wrong, but a lot of decisions are being made for me by other people. I just want to be involved. Stay out of this, Lucas. Lucas had never seen his father afraid in his own fearfulness. He only saw Ashton's anger, hard and cold. He pressed on. I can't. I'm sorry. For the first time since all of this, he raised his bridled wrist. Stuff happened. Something makes sense. I'm needed for what? As well as who I am. He turned to the commissioner again. My father and I have to talk, but this isn't over, and I hope I will meet with you again. The commander smiled tightly. I'll look forward to it. Back in the study, Ashton leaned against the door. His knuckles drummed the wood. Lucas was ready for an outburst, but all he said was, You can't have heard anything through this. No, I used witch work. It felt good to confess it. And how did you get past the bridling? I cheated on the assessment, but that isn't the issue here. Don't you dare tell me what the issue is. His father was still talking quietly, but the words cracked like a whip. You broke the law. The officer who conducted your assessment did so as a personal favor to me. He could face disciplinary action over this. Meanwhile, I'm going to have the house inspected for hostile witch work committed by my own son. You have been criminally irresponsible in every way. Somehow Lucas held his father's gaze. I'm sorry. Especially if I've gotten your colleague into trouble. But I had to find out what was going on. You don't talk to me. Nobody does. You all... He heard the whine beginning in his voice, swallowed hard, and suppressed it. Anyway, that doesn't matter now, because I know what I'm going to do with my life. I want to join Wicca. Josiah Saunders had done what Joab Branning could not. He had shown Lucas his true calling. He couldn't be an inquisitioner, but he could still hunt down and punish witch crime. He could atone for his fae. A worthy ambition. I'll look forward to discussing it when you turn 18. But it's now that counts. If you don't find out who the Wednesday Coven's been bribing, all your work on the Goodwin trial will be for nothing. It's the most important prosecution of your career. It will be your last prosecution too once my condition is made public. We both know that, and I actually have the chance to help. If you won't let me do this for you, then let me do this for the cause itself. For God's sake, Lucas, this isn't the time to play hero. The only cause you should be furthering is your own education. With visible effort, Ashton softened his tone. I can understand why you think you might not want to return to Claremont. Perhaps you'd like to spend time studying abroad. Marissa has been looking into it. There's an institution in... Lucas laughed. A secret boarding school for teen witches. No thanks. He tried a different tack. Look, I'm only asking for a chance to weigh my options. If it turns out I'm not right for Commander Sutter's operation, or if I decide I don't want to get involved after all, then that's fine. But I'd like the opportunity to find out. And who knows what Wicca is looking for? I might be able to join a training program or get a desk job. I could do alongside my studies. That way I won't have to be bridled, and I'd be working towards a proper career. You're a schoolboy, not a spy. And Ashton cleared his throat, looking at Lucas straight in the eye. And you are my only child. Dad, listen to me. You have no idea the risks involved, the dangers, the complexities. You are not ready for this. Then I must learn to be, because I am not an ordinary witch. I'm a prodigy. No, Dad, I know it's true. There's a heat and strength inside me that I've never felt before. I didn't ask for it, I don't want it, but that's how it is. And sometimes it feels that if I can't find a way of using it, I'll go mad. Ashton Stern studied his son, and it was as if he stood before a stranger. Please, Lucas said quietly, you have to let me find my own way. Yeah, for sure. I thought he was a little bit older, to be honest. I think that's like the first time it's like mentioned his age exactly. I do think it did mention something about his birthday being soon, though, in one of the previous chapters. Don't quote me on that. I love reading for y'all, but sometimes it hurts. Hurts my throat. I got my tonsils removed this year, and ever since then, like, I've been getting sick less, but my throat has been so dry. There you guys go. A free hydrate with real water instead of soda. Y'all gotten so much free stuff today. I didn't make you redeem for Sing. I didn't make you redeem for Hydrate. Excuse me. That one was better. Oh, come on. It was at least an 8.5, okay? I was kind of away from the microphone, so you couldn't hear how good it was, okay? Let's be honest here. No. This is not a negotiation game. It was an 8.5, okay? Yeah, no, I can also kind of relate to this, and that's weird, because it's about witches. In the days following her visit to the... Chapter 13. In her days following her visit to the Morgans, Glory concentrated on practicing witch work. With her great aunt to guide her, she was shown to hex banes that would give someone stomach cramps or buzzing in the ears. She was told the best way to rot food and poison water, and how to staunch a wound and calm a fever just by touch. She was practicing scrying in bowls of water to see visions of people elsewhere. She learned how to cast a glamour that would change her looks, and a fascination that would bedazzle people into seeing what she wanted them to. How to craft talismans and amulets, how to make animals do her bidding, find lost objects, whistle up wind. Auntie Angel couldn't do many of these things herself, but she told Glory how she'd seen others accomplish them, and gave famous examples from history and legend. There were some things Glory didn't want to try, like making puppets to enslave a person's will, or casting the so-called black banes, the irreversible kind, that could break the heart and blind an eye, but Angeline taught her the principles nonetheless. In fact, the only thing that didn't go into was the sky leaping. It was just too risky to try in London. Auntie Angel promised her a day out in the country where they'd find a nice deserted wood or empty farm for her to have a go, away from prying eyes. It was all just as Glory hoped. Her instincts were on the mark. She could do everything she put her mind to, and each new act of witchwork filled her with delight. Her great-aunt's pleasure in her gifts was almost as great as her own. Sometimes the old lady would get sentimental, though. Of course, she'd say, "It ought to be your ma teaching you this, just like my own dear ma should have been here to teach me and the twins." Angeline's mother had been imprisoned at the end of the Second World War and died a year later in an Inquisition prison. The Allies had employed witch in the conflict. It was one of the advantages against the Nazis. But this had been a secret strategy, and the penalties for civilian witches remained harsh. Miss Starling had been caught using witch work to try to contact her husband in the Navy. In fact, his ship had been torpedoed and was already drowned, so his wife's death left 13-year-old Angeline and 10-year-old Lily and Cora orphans. Copper Street had been a proper neighborhood outfit then, and they looked after the various Coven families, but it had been a hard life. Glory never forgot how lucky she was. Now and again she'd look at her slim, strong wrist and wince at the thought of iron clamps around them. The Inquisition was the boogeyman of her childhood, and she knew all the horror stories. Most began with a midnight raid, fists on doors, boots on stairs, brutal hands dragging you from bed. Then came the descent to the underground cells, with their vats of ice water and iron muzzles that tightened around the head, long needles spiking into your body's softest hollows. Of course, the Inquisition pretended things were different now. The secret trials and death squads had been plastered over with glossy leaflets and smiley mission statements, but Glory knew, everyone in Covens knew, that nothing had really changed. Inquisitioners still treated the Fae as a disease that needed to be burned out of the human race. Copper Street members were used to Glory spending time with her great aunt, but as a precaution, many of their sessions were held early in the morning or late at night. Angeline secured the room with iron shutters and protective amulets. Meanwhile, Glory put in enough appearances at school to keep the truant officer off her back. It was an exhausting schedule, especially since the problem of who was ripping off the Coven was never far from her mind. The obvious candidate was Nate. He was surely the only person stupid and cocky enough to try it. His dad, Joe Jr., wouldn't have the nerve. These days, he spent most of his time at the local boozer. Everyone knew he was boss only in name, but the old-timers, Patch and Earl, who really kept things going. Glory herself had little or no say in Coven management. If they'd known she was a witch, it would be a different matter, of course. As it was, she was only on the fringe of things, and to get proof of Nate's deception, she'd need access to all areas. She told Angeline about the task Charlie Morgan had set to her, but whenever she tried to properly discuss the issue, her great-aunt waved it away with a wink and a smile. There's more than one way to skin a cat. You just wait and see. What could the old lady be up to? Glory got the answer on Saturday afternoon. A week after turning witch kind, she and Auntie Angel had arranged to practice scrying together. Most of the Coven were out, touting fake tickets to the football game at the local stadium, and number 8 was quiet except for the bleep, 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 bleeps on the computer in Patrick's room. Auntie Angel had recently entrusted Glory with a key to her room. After 15 minutes of waiting, Glory went in and decided to have a go at scrying by herself. It would be the perfect opportunity to spy on Nate. Like all witchwork, scrying was time-sensitive. You needed a personal token of your target to do it, but the effectiveness... But the longer the token had been away from its owner, the less effective it would be. It worked best if your target was in the open air and within walking distance of your own location. It didn't work at all if the room you were scrying on or in had iron shutters on the windows and an iron panel fixed to the door. Copper Street's basement was iron-proofed, and so was Auntie Angel's living room. Glory had to fold back the shutters and leave the door open for the duration of her scrying. Glory had flinched Nate's lighter that morning. Now she placed it in the glass bowl full of water and sat on the floor. Humming helped her focus, and so she started a soft, tuneless drum, feeling her face swell with the swirling of the water as she swayed gently from side to side. When she sensed the fae begin to flow through her and into the bowl, she sat down, spat on her forefinger, and began to stir the water in a circular motion, still humming and keeping the image of Nate in her mind. Minuscule bubbles began to rise from the bottom of the bowl. They were so tiny and then so numerous that the water grew silvery within them. Once it was entirely clouded, Glory stopped stirring and sat back. The bubbles were like pinpricks or pixels, forming an image on the water's surface. The picture was colorless and cloudy, no more than a few vague blurs, and would only last until the bubbles began to burst. The picture in Glory's head, however, was much clearer. This meant that Nate was relatively nearby. There was no sound, unfortunately, but she was just watching Nate join two other people outside a pub when Auntie Angel returned. "You and me gotta talk," the old lady announced. Uh-huh. Glory was still peering into the bubbles. "It's about them pyros at the Inquisition." She locked the door behind her. "What about 'em? They need our help?" Glory waited for the joke's punchline. It was then that Angeline Starling broke the news that she has become an Inquisitioner and informant, and that she was helping them bring government witch agent into the coven. Glory felt as if she had been kicked in the stomach. She didn't even listen to the last part of whatever her great aunt was telling her. It was like when she'd got back from dinner at the Morgans. The walls of number 7's hallways had closed around her. She wheezed for breath. Auntie Angel flicked the water at her face. "This ain't no time for hystericals. Pull yourself together, girl." "I don't understand," she said hoarsely. "After everything the Inquisition's done, it's not likely I'd forget," the old lady retorted. "The Inquisitions murdered my sisters and took away my ma. They dragged me into their cells and poked me with their needles, then dunked me till I half drowned. I wouldn't give those bastards so much as spit from my lips." Glory took a steady breath. "All right, then they're blackmailing you. They finally got proof of your witch kind, and an old crone like me ain't worth the bother. No, I'm more at use as an informant than another witch scalp on their wall. That's why I went to them. A poor little old lady repenting of her sins. Ha! Those prickers couldn't believe their luck." "So why are you doing it?" "'Cause of you." "Me?" "You're the rightful heir to the Wednesday Coven. If your ma hadn't been kicked out of it, she might still be with us. The head witch, just like Lily wanted." The old lady sniffed a little and wiped her eyes. "It breaks my heart to see how Charlie and his brothers turned out. You never know they was Lily Starlin's sons. If she and Cora could see what's become of their coven. There's times I think when my poor sisters are better off dead. Well, never mind that. With fae like yours, you deserve real power. A chance to put things right. Make your mark on the world. And the only way it's going to happen is if we bring the Morgans down." Glory shook her head dazedly. "The Wednesday Coven's untouchable. The Inquisition and the police and MI5 haven't ever got close." Thank you for following. Okay, Kanam? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry. Times are changing. Look at the Brandley Goodwin, hauled up before the Inquisition, on trial for his life. And you know why? 'Cause he's got the dirt on every piece of witchery ever ordered by the Morgan clan. Angeline smiled sourly. Now, Bradley's gifted, but they ain't martyr material. If he's convicted, he'll squeal. Then, bit by bit, the whole damn empire will come tumbling down. which is when you'll step in, my duck, to pick up the pieces. Glory looked at the faded newspaper cuttings on the walls. Lily and Cora Starling, outlaws, celebrities, heroines, and Angeline, the sister who stayed in the background and survived. The protector and schemer, keeper of the flame, all for glory's sake. This witch hunt, Harry, you said? I remember Nate and Jacko talking about him. Some posh git who buys weed and pills off them. They think he's a joke. It had been Harry, too, who provided the tickets to the club night last Friday. Well, he's gonna have his last laugh. Glory didn't see the funny side. She knew, of course, that some witches worked for the police and other security services. Occasionally, they even assisted the Inquisition. But fighting crime was one thing, fighting fellow witches was another. And there she was being asked to break the same taboo. Auntie Angel told her about the kind of information Harry Jukes was looking for, and what would bring him to their coven. I need you to act mately. Show him around. We have to ease suspicion so that he gets his invite to the Morgans. That's the point, remember? Nobody's interested in Copper Street. You sure about that? It's part of the deal. Immunity from prosecutions. Angeline gave a crackly laugh. The Inquisition ain't what it was. There's rules and regulations these days. It's the only way that they get those police witches and such to work with them. So don't fret. We're covered. Covered from the Inquisitional's reprisals, maybe. But if the truth ever came out, the Coven's vengeance would be a different matter. Glory thought that the Hampstead mansion, its luxuries bought with other people's blood and sweat. She thought of Candace and Sky's sneers, of Troy sizing her up like she came with a price tag, Kai's slyness and Charlie's menace. She disliked the Morgans and everything they stood for, but she didn't hate them. At least, not enough to risk everything for the chance to bring them down. I don't know, Auntie, she said at last. I'm not sure I can do this. It doesn't feel right. Angeline watched her carefully. The law hasn't got anything on the Morgan kids, you know. They'll be okay. Nobody's facing the Balefire neither. Not even Kez. Glory looked away. Maybe I'm not as strong as I thought, she mumbled. But however much I want to claim my rights, this ain't how I want to do it. I'm sorry. There's gotta be another way. Auntie Angel sighed. It's only natural you'd have doubts. I hoped it wouldn't come to this, but no. She gave herself a little shake. Hecate, help me. I'm going to have to tell you straight. You deserve the truth. In spite of everything, Glory felt impatience as well as anxiety. She had already been through more than enough revelations for one afternoon. What's more, the old lady spent so long clearing her throat and twisting her hands that Glory came close to shaking the words out of her. You know, Angeline began at last, that when the Morgan boys kicked your ma out of the coven, she came to me. My old man Joe, God rot him, had died a while back, but Joe Jr. weren't shaping up to much, and he was all at 6s and 7s. Glory nodded. She'd heard all of this before. There were some that said I ought to never have took Eddie in. They said it would cause ruckus with the Wednesday Coven. If it appeared Eddie and me were setting Copper Street up as a rival, when covens start fighting amongst themselves, lives get lost as well as business. But Eddie kept a low profile when she came here. Very quiet she was. And she met your dad. She even patched things up with the Morgans. You came along, and life got even better. It was then Eddie went back to witch work. And just as profits were up and the coven was making a name for itself again, Eddie went missing. She left, said Glory in a low voice. That's different. We got a note. I love you, but it's better if I go. Forgive me. But there was no notes afterwards, was there? What are you trying to say? Mom spent half her childhood on the run. She knew how to reinvent herself. Could be she's got a new life, another family. Auntie Angel looked at her sadly. You don't believe that? No, she bit her lip. I suppose I don't. She had sent a word, a sign, something. Of course she would. I'm not saying Eddie didn't have her troubles or her low days, but she loved you and your dad more than life itself. It's easy enough to forward a goodbye note, ain't it? Glory closed her eyes. White tiles, frozen scream, flaming hair. You think the Inquisition got her? It wouldn't have been official. I've heard rumors, the secret squads. Somebody's got her all right. But it weren't the Inquisition. Uncle Charlie, Glory whispered. Perhaps part of her had guessed as soon as Eddie's name was mentioned. The fact she'd suppressed this knowledge didn't seem to lessen its shock. Uncle Charlie, Angeline agreed. Not that he'd have done the deed himself. Giving orders is his specialty. But his brothers Frank and Vince would have been on to it. That's how the three of them worked back then. All for one, all for one. One for all for one. Glory pressed her hands hard against her eyes. The darkness ached. She pressed harder, as if to blot out the world. How did you find out? She said at last. Her vision was blackness, her voice was dust. I had me suspicions from the off. But then a little bird came whispering. A witch had been buried, out in Dunstan Wood. If it hadn't been for the tip-off, I'd never have found the spot. There was no markings except for a shroud. It, well, contained a strand of your ma's hair. An ordinary shroud was a burial garment. A witch's shroud was an amulet used to hide something or someone, to bury them from view. They were sometimes used to deter animals from disturbing a grave, and people from finding it. A rusty, wrenching sob forced itself out of Glory's throat. You're my own darling girl. Angeline's cheeks were wet, but her voice was firm. I hid the truth from you to keep you safe, but I can't protect you no more. You came of age, Gloriana, when you came into your fay. You came into danger too. Now you know what you're up against. It'll be a dirty fight, and a long war, but losing ain't an option, don't you see? Glory nodded. She had choked back sobs. Her fist and jaw were clenched. I'll win, or I'll burn, whatever it takes. Make sure to stretch, everybody. It's good for your bones and your blood. Alright, we're going to do one more chapter, and we're going to get off for the day. Chapter 14. I am stuck in this voice now. These people are set in London, but the way it's written comes off as Jersey Shore, Bronx, okay? Like, with a slight hint, or maybe Louisiana. I don't know. I'm kind of switching around. The Grumpy Dragon is Farah, and if you go into your channel points, you'll see stuff like feed the dragon a steak, feed the dragon a ham bun, feed the dragon an apple. And then you feed him, and it gets happier. And you can breed it, and you can play with it, and other stuff. It's just a little stream pet. It's something to do, you know? If you don't want to look at my face no more. Chapter 14. In Jonah Branding's second interview with Lucas Stern, it was like meeting a different boy. Lucas was courteous, cooperative, frank. I know I have a lot to prove after my previous behavior to you. In fact, I'm embarrassed just thinking about it. An expert performance. Of course, he wanted something. Jonah could sense the impatience behind the charm. He himself was simply a tedious bureaucratic obstacle to be got around. As Lucas's witch warden, his authorization was required if the boy was to apply for a Wicca position. Jonah also knew that his agreement was no more than a formality. He had been told as such by his boss, who had his own instructions. Lucas isn't the first young witch to be used this way, and he won't be the last, the boss said. In another of their out-of-hours meetings, juvenile witches can be a valuable asset as well as a potential threat. Valuable to whom, sir? To those in authority, of course. Well, underage witches aren't like other kids, are they? The Fae sets them apart. It hardens them in some ways, makes them vulnerable in others. Far better, then, to take advantage of their facilities while they're young and impressionable, and before they can be led astray. The boss smiled. We have to keep an open mind on these matters, Branning. Sir Anthony Brady, Witchfinder General, had established the policy of limited cooperation within Wicca. Yet it remained controversial, especially in the Witch Crime Directorate. Everyone knew that Silas Patterson, the Directorate Deputy Lead, was against it, and Patterson had many supporters. Some were convinced that all witch work was an instrument of the devil. Others were against collaborating with any outside agency, witch kind or not, on the grounds that it would undermine the authority of the Inquisition. Those in favor of the policy argued that the Witch Crime Directorate was overstretched. If the Inquisition's priority was fighting witch crime, shouldn't they be willing to exploit whatever resources were available? Jonah himself had often made this point. However, Lucas's stern situation put the nature of such exploitation in a different light. I can see how a child spy could be useful, Jonah conceded, but even so, if it was your child? He had gone too far. A frown crossed his boss's genial pink features. Lucas's father respects, as we all must do, his son's courage and sense of duty. So Jonah agreed to process Lucas's application to Wicca. He authorized the unbridling too. It turned out that there had been some muddle with Lucas's assessment, and he was actually a Type E witch. Even stronger than previously thought, Jonah couldn't understand how the original assessment had gone so wrong. There was no information about the mistake in the file. He just remembered how Lucas had argued the case for his recruitment, impassioned yet self-possessed, blue eyes ablaze with conviction, just like his father. This was not necessarily a good thing, Jonah thought. It seemed to him that Lucas had the makings of a formidable witch. Wicca had two internal departments, Unit A, which worked on domestic security, and Unit B, which specialized in foreign intelligence. They shared a center for work and training. Jonah was going to meet Lucas there early on Monday morning, little more than a week after Lucas had turned witch kind. Time was short. Lucas was going to have a week's preparation before joining the coven. Jonah would be supervising him for the most of this, and liaisoning with Lucas's Unit A handler during his period undercover. Ashton Stern had insisted this would not go beyond the end of the Goodwin trial. But though Lucas didn't say so, Jonah knew that once his period ended, he hoped to be taken on by Wicca in a permanent role. Their destination was a converted warehouse in the Docklands. Much of the area had been redeveloped into a bright, shining world of glass, granite, and steel, and luxury Riverview living. Wicca's HQ, however, was a grimy Victorian hulk on the edge of the industrial estate. The sign over the main door read Avalon Atlantic PLC, International Shipping. Beyond Avalon Atlantic's shabby foyer, and concealed by a sliding screen, was the secure entrance to the rest of the building. Jonah, who was meeting Lucas inside, was directed by the fake receptionist through the real reception. This one was both sleek and functional, and had a bust of Joan D. in an alcove beyond the switchboard. D. had been a trusted advisor to Elizabeth I, an alleged witch and so-called Fae Queen, and had set up a secret council of witch spies to aid her war against Spain. Wicca regarded him as their founding father, even though the agency had not been formally established until the Second World War. The Inquisition kept a close eye. Witchwork activities were monitored by CCTV. Most of the officers and phone lines were wiretapped, and Inquisitional guards had their own station in the building. Jonah had to admit their presence was reassuring. He had never been in a place where so many witches were gathered together at the same time. Lucas, too, looked tense. His manner was distantly polite, like a well-bred guest arriving at the party he's not sure he'll approve of. Lucas had not come through the main entrance, but via the so-called back door. an underground passageway whose entrance was located at the back of the computer repair shop around the corner. Apart from this, the fake reception Avalon Atlantic showed little sign of being the center of espionage. During the course of Lucas and Jonah's tour, they didn't see any computer sites or technical areas, just ordinary offices and a series of small windowless rooms. Most of those were empty except for a table with an object or two upon it, a glass bowl, a tangle of string, a feather tied to a finger bone. Jonah found them unsettling, but Lucas looked at them alertly. He must have already been making connections, figuring things out. The tour was given by a witch agent named Zoe Connor, who, if everything went to plan, would be Lucas's handler. She was in her mid-20s, small and wiry, with a spiky dark crop. Her features already marked with lines of decision and responsibility. She was welcoming to Lucas, but her attention turned to Jonah. He felt a distinct chill. He was a little disappointed, but not surprised. Witches and the Inquisitioners didn't mix well. All discussions and activity involving Lucas took place in the few rooms that were free from the Inquisition's monitoring. These measures were to reduce the chances of his identity and condition becoming general knowledge at the Inquisition. Jonah's job was to observe where the cameras, wires, and guards could not. Though, throughout that long first day, Jonah watched Lucas embarking on his training. Every witch looked differently, but there were still principles to learn. Lucas and Zoe started by discussing the best way to use the Fae in surveillance and defense. No gadgets or weaponry were involved, just a handful of household objects mixed with the more intimate material, an eyelash, a tear, a drop of sweat or blood. Jonah's task was to make a record of each act of witch work and observe Lucas's reactions. He needed to pick up on signs of recklessness or frustration within authority. The other danger to look out for was, in the words of the training manual, an unhealthy and obsessive interest and/or pleasure in the practice of Fae. So far, Lucas's behavior was exemplary. He was calm and collected, accomplishing each act effectively and without any sort of show. Even so, Jonah sensed a suppressed excitement behind his restraint. It was almost as if Lucas wasn't learning something new, but drawing on a primal foreknowledge. Perhaps this knowledge was within all of them, thought Jonah, and most people had simply lost the means of finding it. It was a heretical thinking, though, and he pushed the idea away. At 6 o'clock, Lucas was told that he'd done enough for one day and should go home. Jonah had to take a bus back to the office. He needed to write up his report, talk to the boss, and check on his other cases. After being promoted to senior warden, Jonah had headquarters. It was an independent enclave known as the Outer Temple near the Inns of Court in the city of London. Witchfinders had established a settlement there in 1401, after the first Act of Parliament against witchwork. The Church of St. Cumanus was a rare 15th century survivor. The catacombs below it were even older, but most of the buildings were built or modified in the 18th and 19th centuries. They were set around a series of small courtyards and lawns boxed in by tower blocks and high-rise offices. The enclave was somewhat of a hunched, narrow look in spite of its grandeur. There was a library, great hall, and inquisitional court itself, and head offices of all departments. Since inquisitioners relied on technology to counteract witchwork, a complex of high-tech laboratories existing at basement levels, there was an interrogation suite and cells too. But life above ground was, as the tour guides like to point out, modeled on an Oxbridge college, with all the prestige attached. The burning courts had long been moved elsewhere. The area was enclosed by a wall of wrought iron, crowned with bells. Jonah was just approaching the main checkpoint when he heard someone call his name. Lucas's handler, Zoe, was standing a little way down the street. "Hello," he said, surprised. "Are you here for a meeting?" "No, I wanted to have a word before you left, but got called away. So I took a cab here instead. I've been waiting for you to show." "Come on in, then. My office is just over there. I haven't got clearance." Jonah glanced through the gates at the patrolling guards in their scarlet and gray. He should have known that even a Wicca agent, an agent collaborating with a witch crime directorate on a high-level assignment, would not be allowed in without all sorts of red tape to get through first. Entering the compound was almost as laborious as passing through an airport security. Even high inquisitors had to submit to a fingerprint test and an iris scan on presenting their ID. Besides, Zoe said, "What I've got to say is off the record. At least out in the street, there aren't any bugs." A bus trundled noisily past them, and Jonah drew closer in order to hear her. "Is there a problem?" "Damn right there is." She ran her hands through her spiky crop. "I just want to know what the hell you think you're doing, sending a kid into a coven." He realized she had been biting back her anger all day. "I had concerns," Jonah said quietly, "and I did raise them, but this is Lucas's decision, and with his father's connections..." Zoe gave a snort. "Oh, sure. There's no network like the Old Boys Network. Look, I like Lucas. He's bright and capable, and as near a prodigy as I've ever met. I'm only a type C myself, but that's not the point. He's going to be sent into the lion's den, undertrained, underprepared, and when push comes to shove, underprotected. Why the hell do you think he'd volunteer for something like this? To make his dad proud? Or is this some kind of rebellious teen death wish?" Oh my god, thank you so much! Thank you for the raid! I'm so sorry I didn't look up. Hi, guys! Yeah, that's weird. There's supposed to be an alert. Who knows what's happening? My little pet thing is supposed to tell me, but I'm so sorry. Hi, guys. Welcome in. Thank you so much. I don't know how to say her name. Is it, I don't know how to say your name, and I'm very sorry. But thank you so much. Koning? Koning? Okay. Thank you. I hope your stream went well. No, it's totally fine. I get it. My whole purpose is so that people can fall asleep while I'm reading. So, you know. If they wake up, hopefully they like the story. But thank you so much. Oh, that's okay. That's good. I'm glad that your stream went well. Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Azamat Gaming. Thank you. Hi. Yes. How are you today? I hope everything's good. Well, thank you for following. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the raid. That's so sweet. Thank you. I apologize. I am not bored. Simply fatigued from life. I'm so sorry. I am not trying to cause beef, but I do find it funny. I tried to say your name. Koning UBCS. I tried. I just don't know if it's right. Next time you're in timeout. There, yeah. Did I get it right? Was I close at least? Or was I just terribly off? Because you can be honest with me. I can try again. Konig? Konig? Oh? I'm sorry. My glasses are like the glare on them is so bad I can barely read chat right now. Koenig? I'm really bad at names. Really bad at names, okay? I know a big thing of my streams is talking and reading, but I have never been good at names. You can call me Dan. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Dan. You can call me Star, or Faye, or Lucy. I'm a DID system. I go by. I will respond to anything. Genuinely, I will respond to anything. Sorry. How is everybody today? What'd you do on your stream? I like the name Dan. Dan is a good name. Yeah, like I Love Lucy. It's a good show. I'm gonna rewatch that soon. I get that joke a lot, and I've seen it a couple times. You know, it's one of those shows where it's like, maybe a little problematic, but also funny. It is just funny. Oh, I haven't heard of Heroes of the Storm. What type of game is it? Yeah, it is a movie. Teammates were trolls. Oh, okay, cool. I used to play League of Legends when I was like a kid because my babysitter played it, and so we would play it together. And it was just my babysitter wanting to play her game, and so she taught me and my sister how to play it. My sister hated it and would just would rather watch, and then I played it, and it was funny. Ah. No, cool. I don't know. To be honest, I don't remember. I think she was. She was, yeah. I love World of Warcraft. Big fan. My dad has played, my dad used to play it every day. And it was all he did when he got home from work. Like, he went to work, he like did the few household chores he needed to do, and then he was on his computer playing WoW. It's a good game. I also like Diablo. It is my fiance's favorite. It is like my fiance's family's favorite Blizzard game. They play it all the time. How old is my fiance? Or my dad? My dad? How old am I? I'm 20, right? So my mom is 40. Though, no, she just turned 41. So, my mom is 41. No, my mom is 40. I'm stupid. She just turned 40. So my mom is 40, and my stepdad is 3 years younger than her, right? Right? Is that right? Or is it 2 years? So my dad would be like 37 or 38. So he just had a birthday as well. So I think he's 38. God, my dad's only 38? That's weird. I never think about that fact. I never think about that fact. My parents were very young. My parents are very young. I don't like thinking about it, because, like, I am the age that my mom was. I am the age my mom was when she had me. I'm actually older than my mom was when she had me originally. And I'm way older than how old my dad was at the time I was born. Oh, that's trippy. Yeah. Yes. I am getting married. Eventually. The world is kind of in a... No. I don't want kids. And I also can't. So, good on that front. However, I don't know when I'm gonna get married. Like, exactly, we're engaged. We would get married very soon if it wasn't for the fact of, like, my parents' insurance is a hell of a lot better than what we can get at our age. And so I have chronic illnesses, so I'm just riding that until, I don't have it anymore. And then I'll marry him, and I'll... We would get married now, but I really need insurance, and the US of A sucks. So, oh, you want to talk about... No, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I did lie to y'all. I am a mother, okay? I am a mother. Moshi, come here, Bubba. Moshi, come here. Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come say hi. Oh, he jumped up. Okay. Well, this is fun. This is fun. I didn't expect you to jump up on my lap. You do realize that you are bigger than me, right? Yeah? Are you just not gonna look at the camera at all? You're just gonna block the people from my view and not look at them? Okay. I don't know how he's gonna get down. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't know what's happening here. I think this is what the stream is now, okay? He's never done this. Like, he's done this before on the couch and on other chairs. This is he had to jump to get up here. Are you okay? You don't look comfortable, and you are also stepping all over me. You want to get down, Bubba? You can go. No, do you just want pets? Doggo streamer, yeah. But he won't look at the camera, so all you get to see is my bun and Moshi's sides. I think we're stuck like this, unfortunately. Are you like looking because you want to get down, or are you looking because you want to get pets? I don't know what's happening. Moshi, hey, sit down. What? Guys, I don't know what's happening here. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what's happening. I think we're stuck. Because the problem is, I can't get up with him on top of me, and I don't know what he's doing. Moshi, look over here. Yeah, say hi to the camera. Say hi to the camera. Say hi, you pretty boy. Such a pretty boys. Look at him. My name is Moshi, and I'm a pretty boy. Prolong the stream. Yeah, we'll just sit here. I'll talk. Moshi will be cute. Are you a good boy, Bubba? Do you like all the love you get from followers? Oh, are you gonna try to get down now? No, you're just gonna look longingly at the floor and then look at me like I'm supposed to solve this problem that you created? Well, at least the people like you, okay? You have that. Guys, I wish you could see how he's looking at me right now. He's looking at me like, Mom, I did something and I need you to fix it. Come on. If I throw a trick, you're gonna go, right? Oh. Okay. I'm scared. Okay, please stop making sudden movements, Moshi. You were too big. You will. Ow! Just go. Go jump. Okay! My organs are still intact. I do think he may have broken part of the chair, though. It's Moshi. It's actually, okay. All right, you guys want a story? It's actually pronounced Moisha, but I didn't realize that when I read it. I thought it was Moshi. But no, it's actually Moisha, a traditional Jewish name. Because you want to know what happened? I was naming all of my pets after my favorite books and TV show characters, right? And so one of my favorite books is Where the Wild Things Are when I was a child. It's one of the first books I read, that and Chronicles of Narnia. I did not slip. I did not fail, okay? I was reading Chronicles of Narnia at like 5 years old. Don't come at me. I had a children's book and I had Chronicles of Narnia. That's it. Full stop. That's what I had, okay? So, you know, that's what I was rocking with for a while. All right, those were my shit. I loved it. I also had a couple other ones that like my mom had when she was a baby, right? So, Where the Wild Things Are. I was like looking up. I was like, hey, what are the names from the monsters from Where the Wild Things Are? Because obviously I knew Max, but I already knew a dog named Max, so I wasn't gonna name another one Max. So I looked it up, and if you look up right now what the names are for where the Wild Thing monsters are, you want to know what's gonna come on? You want to know what's gonna come up? The names that the musical gave the monsters. So, when the musical was produced, it was produced by a Jewish man, and the monsters did not have names in the book. So, the producer gave the monsters names of his family. One of them was Moisha. And me, reading this and not doing my research beforehand, thought, Moshi, that's so cute. He looks like a Moshi. He looks like one of the monsters from Where the Wild Things Are. He's big, he's fluffy. Moshi sounds cute. So yeah. Yeah, he is, in fact, what did the musical give the names? It was, hold on. We'll do this. What are the names of Where the Wild Things they are, I lied to you. Apparently, they did change it. It is no longer the first result, but 3 years ago it was. Alright, hold on. Tzipi, Moisha, Aaron, Emil, and Bernard. Those were the names. I vibe with that. Yeah, so Tzipi, Moisha, Aaron, Emil, and Bernard. And that was the first thing that popped up when I searched it multiple times. So I was like, Moshi is cute. I didn't realize it was Moisha. I even had a Jewish friend, and he didn't tell me. He didn't even realize. So now I'm cursed for the rest of my life to have to explain to people that it's not mochi, and it's not mochi, the food. It's moshi, the incorrect pronunciation of Moisha. I'm sorry, but like when you look at Moshi, you know? That looks like Moshi. I just thought it was cute, okay? I'm vibing with it. He's still Moshi. He's been Moshi, he is Moshi. He's also hiding, because he's confused how he got up on this chair, and he does not want to be put in that situation again. I'll be honest, he does not. The problem, though, is when he did that, he knocked the book down. So I don't know exactly where we were. We're gonna have to figure that out. Alright, I found it. Let's get back into it. Zoe gave a snort. Oh. Lucas is rising to the challenge of his condition, as well as embracing its opportunities. Jonah despised his words even as he said them. He knows he'll always be different. This is his way of dealing with it. You mean he'll always be expendable? Jonah tried to speak, but she talked over him. Never mind all that guff about civic values and the greater good. That's all we are to you people, she said bitterly. Cannon fodder. This encounter with Zoe left Jonah tired and depressed. Light was fading on the Inquisition's mellow stone walls and lofty windows. People were starting to make for home, calling out cheerful farewells as they headed into the London rush hour. As Jonah walked across the small cobbled square in front of the church, Kindle Yard, in times past the scene of countless balefires, his shoulders slumped. He knew he should file a report of what Zoe had said. Recklessness and frustration with authority. It was what he had been trained to root out. The trouble was, in this instance, he had respected her for it. The Witchkind Assimilation Bureau was on the far edge of the enclave, and overshadowed by Intelligence Command's towering surveillance block. Besides Lucas, Jonah was warden for a bridled housewife, a police witch officer, and a biology student. All three presented difficulties. The police officer was facing a malicious accusation of bane hexing. The student was trying to decide whether to graduate as a bridled biologist or join the Department of Agriculture's Farming with Fae program. Meanwhile, the housewife's little girl was being bullied in school for being a hag spawn. Thinking of the mound of paperwork waiting on his desk, Jonah's shoulders slumped some more. Hello there, Jonah. He looked around. A slim, tall figure was sauntering across the cobblestones. It was Gideon Hale, one of the new intake of fast trackers, and already marked as a rising star. He had recently completed a placement in Jonah's department, where he'd been attentive and deferential, but Jonah hadn't warmed to him. There had been times when he felt, and suspected, he was meant to feel, that Gideon was merely playing along. Rumor has it you've been hanging out with a witch spook central, Gideon said. as much of a freak show as everyone says. Sometimes it seemed as if there was no such thing as confidential information in the Inquisition. The whole organization ran on gossip. You know I can't comment. Gideon tapped the side of his nose as a theatrical manner. I understand. It's all strictly hush-hush, but having a witch agent to warden must be a step up from bridal gurneys and constable pods, right? I'd best be getting on, Jonah said curtly. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you must be going to the meeting too. Then, when Jonah didn't respond, he nodded in the direction of the church. It's the Hammers tonight. They're not really my scene. The Hammers was a social club. The name came from a famous 5th century Inquisitioner's handbook, the Malus Maleficarum, or Hammer of the Witches. Its members met in St. Culminary's crypt to dress up in old-style Inquisitional robes, reenact famous witch trials, and play drinking games. The membership list read like a roll call of ancient Inquisitional families. Altham, Balford, Grindal, Pattersons, Hopkins, Hale. You had to be invited to join. As Jonah knew, Gideon was well aware. Gideon looked faintly amused. Well, have a good night then. They were just parting ways when a high and terrible scream shattered the quiet evening. It came from the street outside. Almost simultaneously, the iron bells that topped the Inquisition's wall began to ring, a harsh clang that was loud enough to make the air shudder. Jonah and Gideon exchanged appalled looks and hurried towards the gate. There was a bus stop a little way down the road, just a few meters from where he had watched Zoe get into her taxi. A young woman was staggering away from the stop towards the outer temple, plucking at her clothes and crying. Her face was covered in oozing black pustules. She was followed by 3 or 4 others, all suffering from the same disfigurement. No sooner had they reached the gate than they stumbled and fell, crawling drunkenly around the pavement and mumbling gibberish. In a matter of moments, a squad of Inquisitional guards hastened to form a protective ring around the victims. Someone shouted that a team of from the medical block were on their way. Ambulance sirens blared in the distance. On the other side of the road, horrified bystanders were huddled together. A small boy wailed. Meanwhile, Kindle Yard filled with Inquisitioners, murmuring fearfully to each other as the news spread. It's witch work, isn't it? Thank you for the information. I was wrong again. Do I just suck at researching? I don't know. An offer's cooler though. Not cooler, but it's cool. It's witch work, isn't it? Gideon stammered. I never imagined. Not here. Not like this. A witch attack at the gates of the Inquisition. For the first time in Jonah's life, he felt the full force of something beyond the usual human fears. The sense of an alien and malignant power, unknowable and implacable. His flesh crawled. Gideon's eyes flickered feverishly. It's a sign from the covens. They must be trying to intimidate us because of the Goodwin trial. The medics have arrived, and though it was difficult to see what was happening, it appeared the symptoms of the attack were disappearing as quickly as they began. One of the victims was already sitting up and talking. Jonah and Gideon were joined by more onlookers. A woman shook her head grimly. That whistle wind in the MP's office was only the start. You know the train that derailed in Ealing last week? 20 injured, 3 critically. The investigators thought it was a mechanical fault. Now turns out the train driver was under a bane. He had been witchworked into seeing a giant black horse come charging down the track. It's all been coordinated. Others were saying the same thing. Fear was giving way to anger and a new sense of purpose. Gideon had regained his self-possession, his face had set. If that's true, then everything changes. It's not about control and assimilation anymore. This is war. Lucas did not learn of the attack at the bus stop, the plague of boils, as the tabloids called it, until later that night. After leaving Wicca, he went straight home and shut himself in his room with an armful of flies that Zoe had given him. Apart from Zoe, he had seen little of the other witch agents and nothing of the famous Jack Rowden. He had expected to be met with an overeager, slightly defensive chumminess, as among people who shared some fetish or embarrassing hobby. But the few witches he had been introduced to had been brisk and professional, no more. Lucas was relieved. He didn't want to feel like he belonged. Besides, he needed to distance himself from the seething mix of energies and impulses the day's witch work had woken in him. Tomorrow, he would learn more about Harry Jukes and the part he was going to play in the coven. Tonight, he must order his thoughts, make his preparations. He began by looking at the family tree of the Morgan and Starling clans. It was accompanied by reports of members of Copper Street Coven. Flipping through the pile, he paused when he came to a slightly blurred photograph of a girl, Gloriana Starling Wilde. According to the memo, 15 years old, 2 cautions of shoplifting, a record of truancy, risk of turning witchkind high. It wasn't surprising. She was the granddaughter of one of the 20th century's most infamous witches. What's more, her mother, Eddie Wilde, née Starling, was also possibly witchkind. Although low grade, the reports stated that this was unproved since she had never been registered. The Inquisition suspected her of running witchkind around the age of 23. At the age of 24, her daughter was born, and 3 years after she went missing, presumed dead. The file said that she was likely the victim of a coven hit, the consequences of feuding with the Morgan brothers over a disputed will. This is why her daughter was collaborating with the Witch Crime Directorate. Lucas took another look at the girl's strong, beaky profile and bright blonde hair. Her ridiculous name made some kind of sense now that he'd read Operation Echo's files. Gloriana had been an honorific title for the Fae Queen, Elizabeth I. The Stearns weren't the only family with grand ambitions for their child. Yeah. Well, it was saying that, like, because witch work is kind of one of those, like, you know, things of, like, oh, you know, we have it and there's nothing we can do about it and everybody hates us for it, kind of things. That, you know, it's like, you know, should we be bros because we're both into the same thing? When in fact, like, you know, sort of, yeah. Anyway, what y'all think so far? We read chapter... What did we read? Was it chapter 10 through 14? Well, yeah, was it 10 through 14 or 11 through 14? 12 through 14. No, it wasn't 12. We read more than 2 chapters. Because we read the chapter with... Hold on. No, I gotta check now. Was it 12? It wasn't 12. It was 11. We read chapter 11 through 14. I know what I'm saying. Anyway, what do you guys think? Again, if you guys want to read, if you want to hear me read the rest of it, those will be in other videos that will be posted on my YouTube, which is linked down below. If you enjoyed this stream today, consider following. I would much appreciate it. And you can also consider clicking down below into the Discord and joining us over there. That is where you get the most reliable stream updates. You can also talk directly to me and other people in chat whenever you please. We have a couple of cool channels, and as well as some fun stuff. It's called Burn Mark by Laura Powell. It is actually, it's a part 1 of 2. So I actually do have the second one, and we will be reading that. That's what that looks like. But then there's also Witchfire by Laura Powell. So we will be reading this one. This one's thinner. This is the second one, this is the first one. We are about halfway through though. Well, not quite halfway through, but almost. But we will be reading again soon. I do have several streams planned for soon, but I don't know when I'll be able to do them because, as some of you may know, my internet has been going out a lot recently, though, you know, when that stops happening. I do stream every Wednesday, and if I ever miss one, you will get the notification in the Discord. We typically stream anywhere from like 6 to 7. Sometimes we do it a little bit earlier for streaming with Lilith, and then we do some random streams every once in a while as well. So, that's where you can find us. You can also find us on TikTok as well. And so if any of those things seem interesting to you, please give us a follow on any of the platforms. We super appreciate it, and we hope that you had I hope that you all have a great rest of your night. I hope that this helped you kind of calm down and relax from all the day's stress, and I hope that you all sleep well if it is near your time to sleep, and if not, I hope that you have a good rest of whatever you're doing with your day. I think we're gonna end it off here. I gotta go feed Moshi. He seems exhausted from his, you know, little dance on stream. It's hard work being an influencer these days, and he's exhausted, you know? The amount of emails he gets every day, it's too much for the little puppy, okay? He's taking a nap, but he wants food, so I'm gonna go do that. You guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Have a good day. Bye, guys.